The Benjamin Dixon Show is only possible with listener support. Go to www.thebenjamindixonshow.com to register for our blog and join the Progressive Army.
And I did what I had to do. And honestly, I don't care about myself in that moment. I cared about everybody that was around me, and I cared especially about my family. As soon as I got done with that guy and the cop came in, I went across the room and started first aid with my friend who was shot in the chest and the legs and the arms. And I told her, Joanne, stay with me. Look me in the eye. Stay with me. And I moved her head so she wouldn't see her arm because he was shot. And Chip was right there. Her husband was reaching for her. So I put her hand in his hand so that they could be together. I didn't know if they were going to make it. This guy, man. This whole thing was a lot. My daughter and wife should have never experienced combat in Colorado Springs. And everybody in that building experienced combat that night, not to their own accord, but because they were forced to.
That was the voice of Army veteran Richard Fierro, who has emerged as one of the heroes that saved as many lives as they possibly could at the Club Q shooting that took place over the weekend in Colorado Springs, killing 5 and injuring 18. What stands out to me about that particular clip is the part where he says everyone in that club experienced combat, not of their own accord, but because they were forced to. And that is the nature of America. Every week, it seems, we are experiencing our children, our friends, our family, our loved ones, our neighbors. In some format, they are experiencing a war zone. Now, perhaps that's apropos considering American foreign policy. We can get into that argument and discussion, debate, whatever later. But the reality of it is that inside of the borders of the United States of America, we are barbaric. And we routinely put our people through combat, not of their own accord. They didn't sign up for this, but because we have as a nation a fetish for guns. And because this country is so filled with unimaginable hate towards people who are just living their lives, which is quite honestly none of your business. Period. Full stop. Someone else's life, so long as their life and what they are doing is not actively harming you, is none of your business. But because so many white Christian nationalists have made it. This was a white Christian nationalist that did this. And they have collectively made it their business to control the sex life, the partying life, the every aspect of all of our lives. They want to control it. And they want to control it so much that they get enraged to the point of picking up weapons and going out and mass killing. Simply because they can't control your life. And if that's not enough, if you're just black or if you're just gay, just simply being, it doesn't matter. They don't actually know what you do in your bedroom. They don't actually know what you do with your life. They just know that you're something that they don't like. And because they don't approve of it, and because their pastors are preaching sermons of hate, because their politicians are passing laws filled with hate, because their pundits are out here fomenting this type of hate, somebody inevitably, it always happens, it's stochastic terrorism, somebody always picks up a weapon and drafts the entire community into a war zone because they don't like you. Listen to Richard Fierro again as he described the actions that he and others took to stop the mass shooter.
I grabbed him by the back of his little cheap-ass armor thing, and I pulled him down. The young man that was late, he was hiding there, had jumped up with me. I don't know if he helped pull him down or not. I have no idea, okay? That guy did the same act, amazing. Pull the dude down, pin him against the side, and just started, I think he went for his pistol. I don't know, either way, I grabbed the pistol from him. And then I told the guy, move the AR, the kid in front of me, he was at his head. I said, move the AR, get the AR away from him. And the kid did it. And then I started wailing on this dude. And I'm on top of him. I'm a big dude, man, and this guy was bigger. And I just kept wailing on him. And I told the kid in front of me, kick him in his head, keep kicking him in his head. I'm yelling 911, somebody call 911. And I'm beating this guy. This guy's trying to wiggle. He's trying to get his ammo, his guns. One of the performers walked by or was running by, and I told her, kick this guy, kick this guy. And she took her high heel and stuffed it in his face or his head or whatever she could hit.
That performer has not been identified by name, but by the community, they have identified her as being a trans woman who stepped in and using her high heels, I like to say stilettos, just because of the imagery, stomped this fascist prick in the face. I certainly hope and I pray that there are marks left on this person's face so that he will always remember that he was taken down by a trans woman and an Army veteran and another kid that we have not yet identified. I point out the fact that the performer was a trans woman because, well, you know, that's who was targeted. The LGBT community was targeted, and the trans community specifically, which as a percentage of this country is so minute, so small, like 1%, if not less. But that community has become the primary target of all of conservatism, all of fascism. Everyone has leaned in to target this community, and they are being killed. And I don't personally care if you don't approve of people being trans. Again, it's none of your business. Why would you make it your business to be concerned about what someone else does with their body, their choice, their time, who they love, how they identify, who they sleep with? It's none of your business. And for you to preoccupy yourself, maybe not you, the listener, because you listen to this podcast, but for anyone to preoccupy themselves with someone else's gender, sexuality, or lifestyle, who the hell made you so important that you have the right to dictate someone else's life? Oh, it's a part of your Christian morality. You must make a stand against these homosexuals and transsexuals. Do you know who Jesus hung out with? Biblically, in the Bible, Jesus hung out with the people in the streets. He didn't hang out with the church-going, holier than thou. I am perfectly everything that God says I'm supposed to be. He hung out with the prostitutes. He hung out with the street. He hung out with people who no one else wanted to be around. And I'm 100% convinced that he is going to hang out with the trans community, the LGBTQIA community. He's going to be hanging out with the dope boys. He's going to be hanging out in the hood. Not with these sanctimonious, and the sanctimonious is not even the right word for them because they're not actually sanctified and set aside to do good works. They're evil. They are the people who have throughout history used the Bible as a tool to oppress, to bludgeon, and to murder. So spare me your religious doctrine, which we have as black people have historically had to literally fight against you. You white Christian evangelicals and white Catholics and all of you who have used your religion to oppress people, Jesus is going to and has always hung out with the least of these, those who are oppressed, those that you chose to oppress. So save us your morality, your Christian morality, when in fact, most of your pastors are suspect. If they aren't messing with diddling the little children, they're messing with the women, cheating on their wives, having scandalous affairs. I mean, if we broaden the morality, the sexual morality to include infidelity, then, oh my goodness, we're going to have a hard time finding a single pastor in this country who is not guilty of the very things that he's accusing others of. So spare me with your Christian morality. I happen to know Jesus a little bit better than most of you infidels. Ask him what Jesus would do. Jesus would certainly have curb stomped that mass shooter with a stiletto. Now, that's the religious part of it. I want to play a clip from Ben Collins, who is a journalist for CNN. He broke down the journalism aspect of it. Listen in.
I'm trying to say that this is happening. This targeted stuff has real life impacts. They say on the internet has real life impacts. And I'm going to fail, by the way. I'm going to, freak out because it's happening. Because I wake up and I see that there are 5 dead bodies. But I think we have to have a come to Jesus moment here. As reporters, are we more afraid of being on Breitbart for saying that trans people deserve to be alive? Or are we more afraid of the dead people? Because I'm more afraid of the dead people. I don't want to wake up on a Sunday and see that all of these headlines came to fruition.
All the headlines he listed earlier in that clip, all of the headlines that he had covered over the last 6 months, outlining the very specific targeting of the LGBTQ community. And everything that he talked about ended up coming true. You can only report so much. The question is when will we as a collective society realize that we are encompassed about by sociopathic religious zealots who don't have any moral lifestyle of their own such that they can bring a moral high ground? They are not good people in their own sexual morality. I mean, listen, again, I want to reiterate that I grew up in the church. I worked in the church. I still work in the church. I still go to church. I still know these pastors, not just black pastors, white pastors. The investigations are there. The Southern Baptist Church, 900 incidents of sexual assault by pastors. And these are the people who are doing the targeting. The right in this country, the so-called religious right, the so-called moral majority, which they are neither. They are the ones who are targeting the LGBTQ community. You know why? Because they can't explicitly target black people directly. Let's be sure. The religious right, the conservative movement in this country is incapable of operating without having a target to blame and to scapegoat and to make the villain and to dehumanize. Every part of American history, we have seen the powerful in this country, the white Christian men in this country, dehumanize and vilify a specific group. And while they are still gunning black people down in the streets every single day using their police state, they cannot just directly come out and say, oh, we have to be afraid of the coloreds. Actually, I have a clip of one moron who actually literally said that, Nick Fuentes, who apparently is teaming up with Kanye West. We'll talk about that in the next segment. But they 100% understand that they can't get away with their express racism, their direct racism. They're more than happy to just simply let the police state gun us down and get away with it. But in terms of their platforms and their propaganda and getting clicks and building all of their audience and finding a way to motivate their audiences to this level of hatred, they had to get a new target. In this season, it is the LGBTQ community, particularly the trans community. And that's 100% why they must be opposed, because their goal is to literally get these people killed. Don't believe me? Listen.
What does God say is the answer, is the solution for the homosexual in 2022, here in the New Testament, here in the book of Romans, that they are worthy of death? Yep. These people should be put to death. Right. Every single homosexual in our country should be charged with the crime, the abomination of homosexuality that they have. They should be convicted in a lawful trial. They should be sentenced with death. They should be lined up against the wall and shot in the back of the head. That's right. That's what God teaches.
No, that's not what God teaches. That is what white, conservative, Christian nationalist evangelicals teach because they need someone to hate. That was the voice of Dylan Alls, the pastor of Steadfast Church. Apparently, the church is broken apart because that video went out of Texas, rather. I want to make sure you know that the state was in Texas, in case you wanted to look them up. But the church has fallen apart because that video went viral. Because no one of any faith should stand behind that violence. And the violence that leads to, that type of sermon, that type of message, the violence that comes out of that is what we saw not only at the Q nightclub in Colorado Springs over the weekend, but we saw it at the Pulse nightclub in Orlando, Florida about 7-8 years ago. And as I said on yesterday's podcast, we are all being targeted in our individual silos because of who we are. You may not be gay, LGBTQIA, but if you're black, you're being targeted. You may not be black, but if you're Jewish, you're being targeted. You may not be Jewish, but if you're Muslim, you're being targeted. And we are all being gunned down on separate occasions where we live, where we worship, where we work, and where we play, where we even go to buy groceries. There was a tweet last night by some ridiculous evangelical who said that if you want to get the number one way to get rid of these mass shootings is to bring the King James version of the Bible back into our schools. As Professor Anthea Butler said, Dylan Roof literally went into a Bible study and gunned down 9 people who were studying the Word of God. We are all being targeted because we are not a part of the primary power structure in this country. And the primary power structure in this country has been spreading the fear and the dogma of replacement theory that everything that's not perfectly like them has come to replace them. This is why in Charlottesville, when they were protesting in 2017, they were shouting, Jews would not replace us. That's why Tucker Carlson on Fox News every single night talks about the white replacement theory. This is why all of these evangelical white nationalist pastors are out here telling you that that the Bible says that we should kill gay people. They need you to fear some group because that is their only route to maintaining power. And unfortunately, we have people in each of our communities that have a level of bigotry across our communities. We have members of the LGBTQIA community who have an issue with black folks, as if they're not black gay people. There's members of the black community that have problems with the LGBTQIA community, as if we don't have gay black people. We have Muslims who have issues with it. We have issues in our individual communities that prevents us from having the solidarity that is necessary to survive the onslaught of attacks from these white Christian evangelical nationalists. And if we don't get past that and get past it soon and unite around our common survival, we will not survive. Kanye West, I've been calling it for a long time. I've been calling it not only on this show, but whenever I'm in the studio and I'm talking to some of the dudes down on the block, we talk about our favorite rappers. I have to remind them, or I have to inform them, that Kanye West is an enemy of black people. And not just black people. Kanye West is in league with white nationalists. And now he has made an enemy out of every group that white nationalists have told him to be his enemy. The organization Right Wing Watch, who keeps a tap on all things associated with right-wing nationalism and extremism, they released a photo on Twitter yesterday showing Kanye West in his Beverly Hills studio with none other than Nick Fuentes. Now, you may not know who Nick Fuentes is, but he is a rising star amongst the Republican Party. He has been supported by the likes of Marjorie Taylor Greene, who came to speak at one of his conferences. Nick Fuentes is a proud racist, a proud nationalist, a proud fascist. He makes no bones about it. Matter of fact, let me play what he said with his own mouth.
Bannon is the fat retard that goes on these shows and says, we're going to have African Americans voting 50% for Republicans and we're going to flood the zone with nigger votes. I mean, that's like literally he goes on these shows and says that. That one slipped.
That's just one quick sample of him. If you need more, then you can. If you need more to understand the type of fascist that Nick Fuentes is, feel free to Google him yourself. Kanye West is working with them. Nick Fuentes promoted a flyer, an image across his social media showing him shaking hands with Kanye West, promoting Jesus is King, and saying that they are the two most banned people in the United States of America. And then in short order, he was caught in a photo with Kanye West. Kanye West is also working with Milo Yiannopoulos. If you don't know who he is, feel free to Google him. But he is by far one of the most devout fascists in this country. Kanye West does not care about black people. He is an enemy of black people. He has made it clear that he would rather be in league with those who seek to continue our oppression. He would rather be in league with the Candace Owens of the world. He would rather be in league with the Donald Trumps of the world. He would rather be in league with people he thinks will buy his little raggedy albums, to be quite honest with you, than he would to simply stand up and be his own man. For him, being a free thinker means to think exactly like white nationalists think. And for him to not only think that way and promote that with his own voice, but now to work with these type of fascists. Kanye West is an enemy of black people. And that should not surprise us. There will always be, and there has always been, people in our history, marginalized groups, minorities, who work with the existing power structure so that they can get whatever it is their personal goal is at the expense of their own community. There will always be a Candace Owens. There will always be a Daniel Cameron. There will always be a Herschel Walker. And there certainly will always be a Kanye West.
You know what I'm saying? Like, there's nobody that gets judged more than a straight white male. The straight white male has the least amount of a platform to even speak. A straight white male can't say, my wife hurt me today, because people will say, well, you're hurting women. A straight white male can't say, hey, a black employee didn't come in to work on time, because then people will say you're racist. A straight white male can't speak on a homosexual person because they'll say you're homophobic.
Oh, who's going to think about the straight white men, the straight white Christian men who have all the economic power in this country, all the political power in this country, and it's not because of meritocracy. It's not because they're qualified and they're better than everybody else. But in the mind of Kanye West, you know, those are the people who need to be defended. And he has gone so far now that he's not just wearing White Lives Matter shirts. He's not just vocally defending them. He's actually organizing with the likes of Nick Fuentes and Milo Yiannopoulos. Hey, Kanye, you're a joke. You're a fraud. You're a con. Yay. I want to give you more details on the story that I covered yesterday, or the story that I mentioned yesterday about law enforcement opposing rules banning cops from being involved in extremist groups. I'll be reading from the Minnesota Reformer. Policing industry and religious right groups say the rules are too vague and would invite lawsuits. The law enforcement lobby showed up Tuesday to oppose new rules proposed by the state's police licensing board, including banning law enforcement officers from being involved in hate, extremist, or white supremacist groups because they said the wording is too vague. Really? Now, the board that proposed these rules, they first adopted them in August of 2020, a few months after George Floyd was murdered by Minneapolis police, sparking a push for the board to enact reforms that a divided legislator failed to enact. Now, watch this. This is the part that gets me. Brian Peters, executive director of the Minnesota Police and Peace Officers Association, a union representing 10,000 public safety officials, said 92% of their members who responded to a survey have concerns about the proposed rules. 92% of 10,000 officers in Minnesota said that they had concerns about not being affiliated with white supremacists and hate groups and extremist organizations. I don't see why this is difficult. Well, actually, I absolutely know why it's difficult, because we've known for years that policing agencies are filled. It's not that they have a problem with, as in there's something that they can root out, like they could go and find the root of white supremacy in their ranks and root it out. No, they are inundated. They are white supremacist filled organizations that carry out that white supremacy every time they step foot in a black community. We've seen it for years, the roots and the origin of the policing agencies in the first place. And so it's a joke at best. It's laughable at best, but it does represent the full-throated problem that this country has and its policing agencies that have occupied our black communities. Every place that I have traveled over this past year, every city that I've gone to, you can see the dividing lines of occupied territories. You cross the bridge. I mean, I saw this growing up. Everybody knows growing up, you know, once you cross a certain Martin Luther King Avenue, you cross the tracks, you cross a bridge, and you go into occupied territory where there's an abundance of police, but simultaneously an abundance of crime. You go right back across those same tracks and you see a neighborhood that's thriving without any police. The police do not stop crime. Oftentimes, they are the purveyors of crime. They know full well what's going on. They're part of the system that keeps crime in our communities. And we are living in occupied territories where black people have a totally different experience, just one track over. We see this continuously. When the cops are in these white neighborhoods, they're officer friendly, but that same officer come across the track and they are terrorists to our people. And now they're saying, oh, we're concerned because we don't want any rules that say we can't be affiliated with white supremacist organizations. Do tell. All right, folks, I'm actually going to get out of here in a few minutes today. There won't be a second half for patrons only. But there will be, if I'm not mistaken, and I will check with DJ Exclusive, there should be a patron party this Friday night. Now, I know everybody's going to be full of turkey and whatnot, but make sure that you keep some energy to come out to the patron party. I will be there, and I'm going to do my best to stay the entire time. Patreon.com/the BPD show to get access to that. I want to leave you with this. At the end of the day, we all have to live together, or else we are all going to die together. This is why conservatism at its core is a destructive death cult, because they insist on getting rid of everyone that they don't agree with. And if they don't want to expressly kill you, as they have, as I demonstrated in today's episode, some of them like expressly want to kill us. We are being gunned down by them. And if they don't go to that extreme, they want to control you. They want to control you with the force of law. And we have seen throughout history that has always been a prelude to death, destruction, and war. The only way, and I'm saying this very specifically to anyone in my audience who feels like, well, Ben, I just can't support this. I just can't support that. I can't just support the LGBTQ. I can't support this. I can't. No. What are you going to do about it? Do you propose laws to discriminate and control people's lives because you disagree with them? Is your opinion and your belief system so important that it has the right to dominate and control the lives of others? Because if you believe that, then you literally are in league with those who wish to do the same thing to you because of your race, because of your gender, because of your economic status. There are people on this planet, in this country, who literally want to see you locked up, hidden away, out of the sight of public eye because of who you are, what color you are, what you believe, your religious system. And I don't care if you're a nice, good, God-fearing Christian. If your Christianity does not line up with the Christianity of these fascists, these white nationalist, Christian evangelical nationalists, if it doesn't line up with them, then you too will find yourself in the same predicament as the LGBTQIA community, as the same predicament as the black community, every single day gunned down in our neighborhoods by the police state. So make sure that your opinion of what you believe is right and wrong and moral. First of all, you better sure as hell be living a pristine life. You better not have anything in your life before you try to use the force of law to control someone else's life. And then secondly, the minute you cross over to using the force of law to control someone else's life, remember, you're only one step away from someone doing it to you. We absolutely must be able to live together, because if we don't, we most certainly are going to die divided. See everyone tomorrow.